G'day, it's Jay and welcome back to Derriere Farms, where today we're going to take a comprehensive look at operating costs in terms of vehicles and equipment. Now, I know we've taken a look at that in previous videos for those of you that have been long-time followers of the channel. For those of you that are new to the channel, hopefully you will find this informative. I do make videos like this on a regular basis, so don't forget to subscribe and please give this video a like if you find it helpful. Now, I'll explain as we go why I'm remaking this video or combining everything into one video, because there are a couple of things that have come to light that I think are definitely worth considering. So, to start off with, I've got two identical tractors here, identical setups, and they're going to do the same amount of field work for 1 hour. And we're going to look at their repair costs. So let me get those started, and then I will give you a little bit more information. Alright, in this video, essentially what I'm going to do is hit the reset switch because, like I said, I think I found some new information. In the previous videos, everything was done with brand new equipment under ideal circumstances. And we looked at fuel usage. We had 3 brand new tractors, each doing a different job. One did nothing. One was just hauling back and forth, no heavy load, and the third one was doing something like we're doing here, which is plowing. So the engine on this tractor is not under a heavy load because I'm not using the biggest plow, so that's going to affect the fuel cost. It'll make it a little bit cheaper. Like I said, we know from that video the tractor that was under heavy load used more fuel than the tractor that was under regular load or that was just driving around doing nothing. The tractor that was basically just circling, doing nothing with no load, used virtually no fuel. Alright, now just switch to the other tractor. I don't know if you noticed, the first tractor we were in had 37 hours, and I just did maintenance on it, so it's fully maintained at 37 hours. This one is a brand new tractor at 0 hours. And the reason this is important is I want to see if engine age actually plays a factor in fuel usage. I also want to see what the difference is in repair costs. Now, in theory, we know that a tractor has a higher maintenance cost the older it gets. And in the first video, we ran the tractor for an hour and we looked at its maintenance cost. But then we reset it and we ran it for 2 hours, which kind of skewed the results now that I think about it. Because we weren't comparing tractor age in terms of operating hours, we were seeing how often you should repair your tractor. And basically, if you repaired after the first hour, I'm going to throw this random number out here because I can't find my well, I forgot to write it down again, the exact number, but it was around $300 for the tractor we used. If we ran it for 2 hours without repairing it after the first hour, it was about $600. So it kind of doubled. And then we compared the price of different tractors to the repair costs. So we ran a 7R, we ran an 8R, and we ran a 9. 9R for an hour. And obviously the maintenance costs varied by tractor. The more expensive the tractor, the higher the maintenance cost for 1 hour's worth of use was. So in that video, we kind of concluded that it was worth doing a repair costs every hour. Of course, that assumed that you would be getting your field work done within an hour, depending on what you were doing. So the final conclusion was, essentially, you should repair your tractor as often as you feasibly can. If your field work takes an hour and a half, it's not really much. Well, I mean, you could drive back to either the dealership or your farm if you have a workshop set up there and do the repair at that point. But that's not always practical, so yeah, I mean, if you ran an hour and 15 minutes, you ran an hour and a half, obviously you should do your maintenance at that point. And I mean, the reason I want to look at that again is, again, to look at the age of the tractors, the fact that it might not always be feasible. And then finally, for the new viewers, I want to prove to them that it is worth doing a regular maintenance. Depending on what YouTubers you watch, there's quite a few of them out there. And, you know, I love Daggerwin's videos, but he lets his tractor maintenance go all the way pretty much to the red bar before he repairs it. Which is definitely raising his repair costs quite a bit. The other thing I want to look at in this video, and I'm going to use these two tractors, they're both brand new, so they have 0 hours on them. So at the end of 1 hour, they should have exactly the same repair costs. But what I'm going to do is see if dirt plays a part in either repair costs or repaint costs. So, for those of you that are not familiar with it, there is a mod on ModHub. It's called a Dirtinator, and it lets you dirty up your tractor. Hopefully it's not affecting the other one. There we go. That one looks nice and dirty now. Yep, the other one's nice and clean. So I want to see if this tractor has a higher repair cost or a higher repaint cost than the other one does. So that's the other reason I want to remake this video, so we can look at that, because I'm sure dirt is more than just something that's decorative in the game. I'm sure I have read in the XML file somewhere it plays a part in, I can't remember where exactly, whether it's where or the repaint costs, but it is factored in. Now, if it's just factored into the repaint cost, most people aren't going to care, because most people I've found, including myself, tend not to repaint my tractors unless I'm on a farm that is making good money, and then I kind of pretend it's an expense and write it off so I don't make excessive amounts of money like I do on my main play. Where I'm easily bringing in $2 million a year in harvest income. This way I have some incentive to keep going, if that makes sense. So let me set these two tractors off on two different, well, they're going to do similar tasks. But like I said, my main goal is to see whether the dirt affects various costs or whether it doesn't. And I'm also going to use that to show you a 0 hour tractor versus our 37 hour tractor and how that differs. And I'll explain that in a little bit more when we get to actually repairing the vehicles. All right, everyone, the results are in, and I'm not blown away, but I am quite surprised by the results. And we're going to go through those step by step in 1 second. I did buy a third tractor. Well, I sold a tractor that was a little bit old, and I purchased the one on the left so that I could do some field work while these were busy racking up hours doing some plowing. And coincidentally, my planting and a little bit of plowing ended up with exactly 1 hour on this tractor. So let's take a quick look at that. So 1 hour's worth of work on this tractor, which is the same as the other ones, was $215 and $15,000 in paint. Paint was kind of a bit surprising, and we're going to go into that in a little bit. But so the repair cost is $250. I'm going to send this tractor off to do some more field work. I'm not going to repair it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. All right, while that tractor's off doing its thing, let's take a quick look at these two tractors. This is the same. It was brand new, 0 hours, as the other tractor that we sent off. It's got 4% damage to it. This tractor is the one with, 37, 38 hours now on it, and it's got 15% damage from 1 hour's worth of work. Let's see what that translates into in terms of costs. Just notice that the plows, which were both new, have exactly the same repair costs. So the 6250R that was brand new with 4% damage has exactly the same repair cost as the other 6250R that's busy doing its thing, $215, with a $15,000 repair bill for repainting. The tractor with 38 hours on it and 36 months old, its repair bill is more than 1 2/3 times the cost of the other tractor at $565. However, its repaint cost is $6,712, which is half of the repaint cost of the other tractor. And that surprises me a little bit for two reasons, and I'll go into that in a second. Let's have a look at the other two tractors. Oh, if you don't have this mod, it's a toolbox mod, and as you can see, it allows for mobile repairs. So, the tractor on the right is quite obviously the one that we dirtified, and the one on the left accumulated its own dirt as it was cultivating. So let's take a look at these two. Again, both cultivators have exactly the same, pretty much, repair costs to them. The 6120M is $114 to repair. The other one is $115. That could just be a tiny, tiny calculation error. Now, the one with no dirt, its repaint cost is $8,051 versus $8,696. So I knew dirt did something. I wasn't sure if it, well, it says it affected wear. I assumed wear meant that it was your maintenance cost, not your repaint cost. So a dirty tractor will cost you more to repaint. No big deal, because it takes a while for any visible signs of damage to occur on tractors. And if you're anything like me, for the most part, you don't repaint your tractors again, unless you have extra money floating around and you just want to do it. So we'll leave those two tractors as is for now. And we'll go back to this two 6250Rs. What surprises me about this is not so much the repair cost, because we know the older the tractor gets, the higher the repair cost goes. But I always assumed the repair cost, and this was based on some information I had read, obviously wrong, that the repair cost is tied into the vehicle cost. Therefore, you reach a point where the vehicle cost and the repair cost intersect, and because your tractor is depreciated so much, the assumption was that your repair costs hit a peak, which is quite possible. So I just assumed that one would be double, not more than double the repair cost of the other tractor. And what are we looking at again? We are looking at 215 versus 565. So 2 1/3 times. This tractor's worth less than 58,000. It's worth less than 60,000. It's 58,399. This tractor's almost brand new at 200,000 in value. So, like I said, based on the previous video where we looked at the repair cost of the 310, the 8R, and the 9R, the more valuable the tractor, the more expensive the repair cost goes. Now, age is obviously a major factor here too. So the larger the tractor, the older it gets, you're going to end up having massive maintenance bills. Which raises the question, at what point do you repair your tractor? Sorry, not just repair your tractor, where do you stop repairing your tractor and replace it? I guess it all boils down to when you can afford it. Assuming I do regular maintenance on this tractor and keep it, well, it's going to go up slightly hour by hour. Assuming 565 and maybe 600, it's going to take a long time before the repair costs necessitate buying a new tractor. So, I just don't have time to take the experiment to its... it will take a while to get the experiment to the point where I could figure out and tell you exactly where my now maintenance costs are way too much and it's worth buying a new tractor. But obviously, 38 hours, it's still worth hanging onto your tractor. I figured I had been on my Let's Play farm replacing my tractors when they get to 20-25 hours. I don't know why I hadn't replaced it, and I'm kind of glad I haven't, because I got to see what its true repair costs were. So I'll be hanging on to that one, and I'll be hanging on to the two new ones. Not that it's a big deal, because this is my experimental farm and I have plenty of money. Now let's look at fuel costs. So I don't have to go too far. I'm going to put in a fuel tank here. I'm going to move that pickup truck so it's not in the way. And then we'll have a look at the different fuel costs. And see if fuel even makes a difference based on engine age. Boy, that pickup truck's loud. I hope you could hear me. What I was saying was... let's look at fuel, and even though they've both only got an hour on them, let's see if there's a variance in fuel, which may also play a factor in how often you repair your tractor. Okay, so let's refuel. So this one is $78. Okay, that's pretty cheap, and I have my fuel costs on normal. So 78. $83. Okay, so I'm paying a little bit more in fuel too as the engine gets older. Not a big deal in Farming Simulator, because even on normal or hard, fuel is way cheaper than it is in real life. And we'll just take a look at the other two tractors to see if there's a difference there. I don't think there will be. Well, there should be in theory, because one tractor was working a hill and the other was working flat land. But they were both revving pretty good. 32. So 32 in fuel costs. And the last one. $31. So yeah, both the same. Like I said, even though one was working a slight hill, because of the horsepower rating of the implement, they were probably both working. They're 140 horsepower tractors. The cultivators are 140 horsepower rating. So before I give you my final conclusions, let's just take a look at this tractor. It's now up to 2 hours. I didn't repair it, remember? I just let it go. So we'll see what it is at 2 hours. And its repair cost is $634. Versus, what was it, the $215 when it was at 1 hour. So yes, that confirms that that part hasn't changed. It still grows exponentially. So you are like, I went back to the yard and I came back with a new piece of machinery. I could have repaired it when I went back to the yard, and if I'd been playing normally, I would have done. I'm going to repair it now. And then I'm going to send it back to the field in a second. Which brings me back to my final thoughts. It's definitely worth repairing the tractor, like I said, as often as you can whenever you go back to the yard. Or if you have the portable toolbox. I put it in the back of a pickup truck. Unfortunately, whenever you save the game, it resets, which kind of sucks. And it goes back, because it's a tool or a placeable, it goes back to where you placed it. Okay, sidebar aside. Yeah, repair your tractor as often as you can, and that will reduce maintenance costs, no matter the age of the tractor. As we saw, this tractor, even though it's now 2 years old, by deferring the maintenance by 1 hour, it became more expensive to repair this tractor than it did the tractor that had 38 hours on it, but had only done an hour's worth of work. 2, my next conclusion is, again, based on the fuel. Now, this is based on the fuel costs of the small tractors and their repair costs versus this tractor. And what we discovered in the previous video, use the tractor that's appropriate to your farm, or to, not your farm, sorry, let me correct that, to the work you're doing. Just because I have a John Deere 8R or 7R doesn't mean I should be doing something like had to think about that for a second. Doesn't mean I should be doing something like using this roller or the plow that we used to do the test, because they only require 230 horsepower. In fact, this 6R is overkill for the roller, so I'm spending extra money on maintenance when I could be using a small tractor. Most maps you start off with give you one small tractor. I usually get rid of it, or I used to get rid of it, because I was worried about, as it got older, the maintenance costs. But as we've seen today, yes, while the maintenance costs do go up as the tractor gets older, it's still cheaper to use that old tractor than it is to use a big tractor or a bigger tractor where you're not doing regular maintenance. Or even if you are doing regular maintenance, again, going to use the 8R as an example, that has a, right off the bat, that has a, due to its price, has a $400 and some repair bill. And finally, let's talk dirt. Just like I thought it, I had a feeling it did, dirt plays a factor in costs. However, it's not the factor in repair costs like I thought it was, it's the factor in repaint costs. And most people that I've spoken to don't repaint their tractors just because it's A, so expensive, and B, the most damage you see on a tractor is superficial. Especially at the accelerated rate giants have the repaint costs factored in. And finally, I know some of you are going to say, well, Jay, what about your video about horsepower matters? You just said don't use an 8R with the plow you use, which is a 220 plow, and your 6250R is a 300 horsepower, so you're using more horsepower than you needed to. Just remember, I factored in the 220 horsepower required, plus the fact that it has to carry the weight on the front of it, and finally that, especially the French map, there are quite a lot of hills that you have to navigate, so that extra horsepower, even though so say with the weight and the plow it comes to 250, so I had 50 horsepower to play with. I would say that was reasonable. Having an extra 200 horsepower to play with, or 158, nah, not necessary. Anyway, I hope, like I said, I hope you found this video useful, and I hope it ties everything in together for you in terms of what you need to know about repair and repaint costs, as well as fuel costs, so you can better manage your farm. Thanks for watching. Take care, Jay.